A new proposal in Texas would allow the state to bus illegal migrants who just crossed the border to deportation facilities instead of sanctuary cities. This would allow for illegal migrants to be processed quickly for deportation at ICE holding centers. And joining us now to discuss is Mark Morgan, the former acting commissioner of Customs and Border Protection and visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Good morning to you, sir. The hope is that this will also deter migrants from crossing without first going through the proper channels to apply for asylum before making that trek to the border. Mark, how was this done before the Biden administration? What was the process during previous administrations, before, during Obama, during Trump, than what we've seen in the past 4 years? Because what we've seen in the past 4 years is unprecedented.
That's right. Well, what we used under the first Trump administration was an umbrella strategy, as you just really outlined, of that consisted of deterrence and consequences. And an important element of that, we utilized both resources and policies to support those resources in the successful accomplishment of the umbrella strategy. We also understood that our border should be viewed at our last line of defense, not our first line of defense, meaning that we shouldn't get better at dealing with illegal immigration once it's reached our doorstep. Our strategy should prevent and deter it from getting to our doorstep, so those limited resources can be reallocated to their law enforcement, national security mission. This policy will do just that. Rather than catching and releasing illegal aliens into the country, they're going to be promptly removed. I promise you, if you end catch and release and institute a strategy of catch and remove, you're going to see the flow of illegal immigration drastically reduced, because that's exactly what we did under the first Trump administration. Speaking
of which, when we talk about deterrence, we just reported on yet another case where a 5-year-old migrant girl was found with smugglers after crossing the border. Her mom was an illegal migrant from Mexico. She'd already been living in North Carolina in our country and reportedly paid these smugglers $8,000 to get her across the border. Now, the smugglers are facing charges. The mother hasn't been charged yet, but clearly abandoned her child at some point. Talk about how these children are being exposed to dangerous criminal trafficking networks as a result of this.
Yeah, Jan, great question. We don't talk about this enough. First of all, that mother should be charged. If you're an American citizen, a mother that leaves their 5-year-old in a car while you go get a gallon of milk, you're going to be charged with child endangerment and probably end up in jail. The past 4 years, we've had over 500,000 unaccompanied minors come to our border. Why? Because the laws are broken. If you're 17 years or under and you come to our border alone, the law says you have to be released in the United States, never to be heard from again. But yet we know that 30% of young women and children are sexually assaulted on their journey up here. We know that the 5-year-olds and minors like this are abandoned, or smugglers walk away from them to avoid apprehension. We know the past 4 years that over 2,000 migrants have died coming to this border. And we also know that untold unaccompanied minors are thrust into the life of trafficking. This is absurd. And meanwhile, Congress has remained paralyzed, Jan. They have done nothing decade after decade while they've watched the United States become part of the world's largest smuggling trafficking organization. And this is exactly why Trump is headed back to the White House, because he's going to do what Congress does not have the political will or courage to do.
Hopefully that changes soon. By the way, what did you make of Trump and Mexico's newly elected president, Claudia Sheinbaum, their talk on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, look, we saw this coming. Jan, you and I have been talking for the past 4 years on what needs to be done. And I've always said since day one, the past 4 years, is look on the shelf and find the binder that says Trump-era border security policy. Pull it off, open it up, dust it off, re-implement it. His threat on tariffs is exactly what it did in 2019. There's a lot of political rhetoric back and forth, but at the end of the day, Mexico knows that the threats of tariffs, it may impact the United States, but it would devastate Mexico's GDP. And what we saw them is step up and provide unprecedented resources. They secured their southern border, they increased interior enforcement, as well as security on our shared border, and that's exactly what we're going to see in the second Trump administration.
Yeah, and you know what? She did say she would help facilitate resources and support for migrants arriving in Mexico from Central America. She said, quote, potential immigrants will not reach the northern border because, she said, Mexico has a strategy. Where was that strategy the past 4 years? Mark Morgan, always great to see you, the former acting commissioner of Customs and Border Protection and visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Have a great week, sir.
You too. Thanks.